Magnus Carlsen, the #1 ranked player in the world, is known for completely dominating his opponents. His godlike plays are formidable for any opponent.
Oh, that was quick. Oh, that was bad.
However, he made the worst mistake during a championship chess game that could have cost him $60,000. In the 11th round of the World Rapid Championship, amidst the tension and hushed murmurs of the spectators, two formidable players take their positions. On the one side, we have Vladislav Artemiev, a strong and cunning grandmaster born in Russia. He possesses a strategic mind, well known for keeping his opponents on edge. With his precise calculations and creative gameplay, Artemiev has become a rising star in the chess community. With a steely determination burning in his eyes, Artemiev was poised to make his mark in the books of chess history. The World Rapid Championship was no different. The only man standing in front of him and one step closer to the cash pot, Magnus Carlsen, the reigning world champion, renowned for his strategic brilliance and unshakable composure. Vladislav, our leading contender, was poised to secure the title with just 3 more rounds to go. As always, Magnus Carlsen prepared himself with his signature rituals, rearranging his knights to face sideways and taking a small sip of water before the game begins. Artemiev, known for his thoughtful approach to the game, carefully deliberated his opening move. The clock ticked, tension mounting with each passing second. Finally, he made his decision and confidently placed his hand on the d4 pawn, setting the stage with a classical opening. Magnus Carlsen, the reigning world champion, was quick to respond. Sensing his opponent's contemplation, he wasted no time in springing into action. With an air of confidence, Magnus deployed his knight to f6. Artemiev, now facing the unexpected response from Magnus, paused momentarily, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his face. But he quickly regained his composure and countered with a powerful move. Artemiev pushed his c4 pawn forward, claiming control over his central squares and signaling his intent to engage in a traditional opening. Magnus, a master of seizing opportunities, recognized the momentary hesitation in Artemiev's play. In a bold and strategic maneuver, he sprung his bishop into action, delivering a bishop to b4 check. The unexpected check caught Artemiev off guard, disrupting his plans and forcing him to recalibrate his strategy. Artemiev reacts instinctively with bishop to d2, and Magnus captures the bishop with bishop takes on d2 check. This exchange allows Magnus to develop his pieces efficiently as he plays pawn to d5, aiming to solidify his position. Artemiev follows suit with knight to c3, while Magnus castles kingside, opting for a solid and stable position. A fairly straightforward middle game that rolled quickly into the testing phase of the game. Nothing too tough for the world champion, just yet. Artemiev places his rook on c1, preparing for further development. Magnus seizes the opportunity to capture the pawn on c4, but this was Artemiev's plan, to gain an edge with his bishop on c4. Magnus strikes again with pawn to c5, aiming to challenge white's central control and weaken Artemiev's pawn structure. Artemiev doesn't engage and castles instead, allowing Magnus to capture on d4, which is quickly taken. Magnus opts for bishop to d7, attempting to solve his weaker middle position. Artemiev continues to develop the center of the board, putting pressure on Magnus's position. Magnus fires back, taking Artemiev's knight with knight to d4, which immediately draws out Artemiev's queen, taking the knight, again at d4. This is followed by a series of reshuffling moves as both players take a momentary break to assess their positions. Magnus pulls his bishop forward to c6 before taking Artemiev's bishop at f3. In the same back and forth as with the knights, Artemiev's queen rolls forward to wipe the bishop off the board. This short burst of activity then turns back to further reshuffling, resulting in another short 1-for-1. Magnus moving his rook from d8 to take Artemiev's rook on d1. This move left spectators confused, with the world champion's rook then immediately being taken by queen to d1. Sensing the danger, Magnus maintains his composure and responds by drawing his queen back to e5, attempting to navigate the threat posed by Artemiev's maneuvering queen. However, tragedy strikes when Magnus commits a blunder with knight to e4. Seemingly an active and aggressive move, it allows Artemev to push his pawn to f4 and threaten Magnus's queen. Not wanting to sacrifice his knight on e4, Magnus decides to move his queen to f5, which enables it to be threatened again by pawn to g4. And then it happened. The unthinkable. The best chess player in the world makes a shocking mistake that could have cost the reigning world champion a fortune. Magnus does not move his queen to safety and instead opts to sacrifice queens with Artemev by moving rook to c3. A simple tactical blow from Artemev, leaving Magnus's queen to be taken by a pawn with g4 to f5. This mistake not only costs Magnus his queen, but a weaker position overall and pawn structure, dramatically shifting the balance of power on the chessboard. Realizing his mistake, Magnus displays visible disappointment, fully aware of the magnitude of his blunder. In one ill-fated move, Magnus Carlsen, the reigning world champion, has made a grave error that could cost him the game, and even more significantly, his chance at securing the tournament's first-place prize of $60,000. It is a heartbreaking turn of events for the champion. With the capture of the queen, the game takes a dramatic turn in Artemev's favor. Magnus valiantly fights on but eventually resigns, acknowledging the insurmountable challenges posed by Artemev's advantage and active rook, which is left to devastate his reed ranks that would ultimately let Artemev push his pawns. Ultimately, Magnus concedes defeat, with the game now unwinnable even for his lofty standings. Even with the mistake that threw Magnus completely off his game, he did then go on past that bitter 11th round to secure overall victory in the World Rapid Championship. But I guess that's why he's the champion.